Episode of Starseed Activations. So, we were just discussing the process of evolution and activating our extrasensory abilities and what the psionic abilities look like. And so, psionic abilities allow us to change or manipulate matter using the power of the consciousness that is inside of us. Now, inside of us is a light body, it is ethereal in its nature. And so, that light body is directly connected into a source frequency wave. That source frequency wave makes up all particles in the physical reality as we see it. Now, when we start to go inside of ourselves, we have to change or modify the internal circumstances. Inside of each person, you are going to notice the internal circumstances are your biological, your binary codex frequency, your experiential frequency, which is how old you are, and then you're going to notice your time, space, location code. And so where in the simulation are you? These three frequencies make up your entire physical form. When we start to go inside, there are 5 frequencies that we have to change or modify. Now, the 5 frequencies has to do with the thoughts and the emotion grids. So what the star people are showing me is your thoughts and emotion grids, it radiates different colors. And so those different colors are what thoughts are you having in your mind. That thought that's coming up in your mind is connected into a chakra subsystem, which then radiates out along with the emotions. So if you're having an emotion of sadness or fear, it's going to be one of the lower base colors. So more like red, or even below the red, it could look muddy brown, the star people are saying. Now, when we start to go in and we start to activate all of these different systems, it actually allows us to activate the energetic grids, which there's 144 energetic nodes inside of the grids, which is your aura field. And so these energetic nodes become activated by us having experiences. So your experiences, we always want to have a look at the polarity. So that polarity, we experience a positive and then we experience a negative. When we come to a place of neutrality for the entire experience in both, then all of a sudden it opens one of the energetic vortexes. Now, this is of high value for each individual because then it makes a new perception of our experiences. So, for example, imagine for 1 second, we've all walked through trauma. And that trauma could be very heavy. It could be dense. It could be something that we don't want to look at. But the second that we go inside and we start to heal all of that trauma, it'll actually allow us to open up the energetics, which allows us to raise our frequency into 5D ranges. So it actually is a blessing to go through all the trauma, because the darker that you can go into the lower frequency range, it's going to allow you to slingshot into the crystalline realms. What that means is that you are going to be able to activate your extrasensory abilities at a higher degree, depending on the level of trauma or suffering that you have walked through in the physical reality. So let's see, how can we embody 5D in our jobs? Or what kind of job will be useful in 5D? And so 5D, I want you guys to realize it's not a different location. It's just a different perception of the world that is already here. Now, when we are truly holding 5D in our biological systems, that is going to allow us to change the color spectrum that we perceive in the physical reality. Except by the time we're in 5D, it's not really physical. It's more crystalline in its nature, which basically grants the individual's access into instantaneous manifestation of abilities. The abilities include changing the location, as well as manifesting physical items, as well as shape-shifting. So all of these things, we're changing matter at the subatomic levels. So the second that we have a basic understanding of this, this is the reason why all of the ancient texts have told us to be loving, caring, kind, to forgive your neighbor, right? And to really forgive yourself and to just come inside and be at peace with everything. Now, when we start to do that, we actually start the process of healing our life. And then all of a sudden, you could take your life from a negative and turn it into a positive. And then that's another one of those energetic nodes that tend to unlock. It's a beautiful situation. So is there an attachment that manifests the worst possible endings? Now, of course, there is. and its name is horrible endings. So whenever we're dealing with attachments, attachments are always the emotion code. And so that's what the energetic name of the attachment is. Now, just realize that these are real beings. We can see them under certain types of photography. They kind of look a little scary. That's okay too. We just tell them to get off and go home because we don't want to cause damage or harm to them. So the particular attachment that the viewer who sent the question in, the name is horrible ending. So just tell it to get off and go home, and that's it. Now, what that particular attachment does, the star people are saying, is it generates you continuously having horrible endings in your life until it manifests like a moment of death, horrible ending. And so we can have different endings that are horrible. We can have a job end that was horrible. We can have a relationship end that was horrible. And so you can see the cycle repeat over and over and over again until you break the cycle, you heal it. You have to unpack the emotions. The only way to unpack the emotions is to really dive in deep and be okay with the experience as a whole. So when we start to unpack the emotions, a lot of times the emotion is never what you see in your world today. It's always stemmed from early childhood because we have cycle repeats. And so the second that we notice that, okay, this is a cycle repeat over and over, you should, I can't tell you have to. For me, I have to go right in, and I have to allow either the star people will help you, or you can just call upon the higher self. Now, you ask the higher self, show me the memory of the very first time I've ever experienced whatever cycle repeat it is. So what experience has happened over and over and over again? And so then just sit there, just blank out your mind. Don't force it. Don't push it. And don't try and generate or will a memory. Just allow whatever is to become, just allow it to become. When we do that, then all of a sudden the memory will just come into our mind. We may feel it. And then you want to call forward the younger version of yourself, and you want to just ever so gently put it on a heart-to-heart hug and release the emotions together. Tell it that you are safe, you are loved, whatever that younger version of yourself needs to hear in order to be healed. This is very important because the second that we realize, okay, this is how we heal people, we can take the information and we can go and we can heal each other. We don't have to do it for a profit or any of that stuff. You guys can sit down. You can do it too. You can call in the star people. Now, I want each person watching this to really think and really remember the star people. Yes, they are a bunch of people on UFOs. However, they have a home planet. They can work psionically through their telepathy with each and every person on the planet. There's billions of people here on Earth. There's trillions of people on their planets. The star people come from multiple planets. So it's like the Arcturians, Illyrians. There's a whole range of them. There's so many. Now, they all have different planets. And so where we have billions of people on this planet, there are billions on multiple planets. So the way that they describe this to me is kind of like, imagine our children sitting in class, and then all of a sudden they get assigned a human to watch and to monitor, because every one of us are being monitored. And so then what do? They try and help psionically, like, oh, it's okay. They send emotions. They try and calm us down, right? Without generating or interfering in our free will, but they just try and help from their end. This is how the Starseed program actually manifests. Because all of us are starseeds, we set up these types of contracts before we even came here to say, yes, you guys can step in. If I'm not doing my mission, or I'm not raising my frequency enough, or something bad looks like it's going to happen, we give permission for the star people to come in and help us out and assist us in any way possible. And so you guys have to tell that to them. Thank you guys for coming in and helping me if I ever really need the help. Thank you very much. And just hold a very humble heart and just be eternally grateful for the assistance. Now, I did this years ago without solidly knowing I was a channel. I had asked anyone up in the solar system, thank you guys for saving our planet, because I really thought the planet was going to like doom and gloom. And so then all of a sudden, it was maybe like 3 or 4 years later, I found out I was a channel with the star people. I had always known that there was some type of contact because I've seen UFOs before. I saw one over my backyard that I know came there for me because it was there for like a while. And when I brought other people to see it, they went away. And when the other people went back in the house, they came back out. So I knew that they were there for me. I just had no idea. So they are watching all of us. They are ready, willing, and able to help us. Now, okay. Recap. Oh, we did that one already. Okay. So we have a source frequency lens above our heads. Now, what this looks like is kind of like a Stargate. And so what happens is when we are pulling this light down the physical form, we're actually able to project it through any chakra as we see fit. Many times this program, it runs automatically, and so we really don't have to think too hard, but we can consciously change it. So your thoughts and emotions are changing the source frequency lens and directing it out the chakra systems. Now, these chakra systems, when you're focused in the heart, what happens? We tend to manifest more love into our lives. When you're focused on the root chakra, then all of a sudden you're more physically focused on food, on housing, on gas, right? And so you have a whole range of attachments that comes when you are focused in the root chakra. When you start to unlock the chakra and you start to go into the higher ranges, then there's different levels of attachments that may come with those different chakra focuses. That's okay too, because the way consciousness works, and the star people are saying it is a brick of consciousness. Now, inside of this one brick of consciousness, you're going to have all these different experiences that you personally are going to have to learn from. Now, while you're going through your brick of consciousness, everybody else is basically going through the same stuff, just in a different brick of consciousness. And so what that looks like is this. We can see this happening right now on the planet for the people who are still very physically focused. So if you've done the shadow work, you've done some spiritual digging, you know the reality is a holographic simulation, great. Now that means you're at a higher brick of consciousness than the person who's still going and surviving and they're just focused on their needs and they're not spiritually focused. It's two different bricks of consciousness, but we all basically go through the same stuff around the same time. This is just the way it works. And so that's a lower level of consciousness. We're at a higher level of consciousness. There's no judgment because we both have, every one of us, we've been at different levels. You have to go through them all in order to ascend through 5D. So we have to start in the lower levels and we have to rise up. That's okay too. And so when we start to realize this is what it is, it allows us to transmutate all the experiences more rapidly. Now, what that looks like is, okay, if trauma or trouble is coming for me, I'm just going to open my heart and thank you, higher self, for giving me this experience. And thank you so incredibly much for allowing me to learn and break the cycle repeats from this particular experience. And then just open your heart and just be okay with any outcome. This is one of the hardest things to master in the physical reality. However, this can also save your life because let's say, for an example, you're about to crash into a tree. Now you can drop into that heart space and you could do exactly what I just said. Thank you, universe, love and light, hold the emotional love. Even if you're scared, even if your heart rate jumps into your throat, just go back in and hold the emotional love. What you just did was you recalibrated your thoughts and emotion grids into a higher frequential, which in turn is going to shift your manifestation in the now moment. So we know for a solid fact that anytime we experience time and we're really happy, that time goes by very, very rapidly. When we're very sad, it makes it seem like time drags or goes very slow. This is the way we can affect time-space. That's actually a frequency inside of us as well. The second that we recognize, oh, the thought grid and the emotion grid controls time and space, that's when we can start to play around with our internals and we can start to change time and space. Now, space is a very interesting one because we can change locations literally in the blink of an eye. So whenever we're driving is the best way to do it because when you're driving in a car, you're actually flipping through the holographic simulation. It's like picture, but with a picture behind it and a picture behind it, and it's flickering so fast. There's a flicker ratio to it or flicker rate. And that flicker rate goes, and it's so fast that we see the physical reality as being solid. However, when we start to control time and space, you could slow it down to such a point where you can see each individual picture. This is how the simulation works. I've seen it, so I know it to be true. Now, when we realize that, we can also speed it up. And so speeding it up is of high value because let's say you're going on a road trip. That road trip normally takes you 6 hours, but you just made it in 3. This is true too. I've also seen it with my own eyes. So when we recognize, okay, time and space is all an illusion, we're in a holographic simulation, then the thoughts and the emotions become the utmost important thing. Now, I was also a cripple for about 12 years, so I couldn't walk. My arms went numb, my legs, this was a big story. And so what happens is when we start to go inside, we start to raise our frequencies. It actually allows us to do things like heal the physical body very, very rapidly. And so this is a real thing too. Healing the body is usually the very first thing that individuals do along their ascension journey, because it allows us to heal the body. And then we realize, oh, okay, well, wait a minute. Was the pain even real? Because I was able to go inside and I was able to turn it off. So is it real? Or is this something that we can go inside, we can control our internals, and we could do things like release hormones that make our bodies feel good? Or we can go in and we can release different types of hormones that shut off the pain. Now, we can also use things on the external to help us manifest this. So we can do things like breath work. We can hop into ice baths. All of these things reduce anxiety, release the pressure. But really, we want to release the attachments as well, because many times the attachments latch on to us. And if we don't clear them, they could be there for years unknowingly. And then all of a sudden, when you have an attachment, it causes a lot of trouble. So it's just wild and amazing. Now, we also have a civilization source frequency lens. And so what that looks like, the star people are saying, is imagine that this frequency that comes down inside of us, all of a sudden we have an individual one, but we have a collective consciousness one. So let's take 2020 for an example. That source frequency lens was in the root chakra for every single person on the planet. For the most part, the star people are saying. Some people were an exception to the rule, and they actually had their own source frequency lenses adjusted. But the civilization as a whole, there was a lot of chaos on the planet too. And so whenever there's a lot of chaos in the energy, in the air, we know this, we can feel it, but there's always going to be a type of root chakra activation with that chaos energy. Now, this is very important, because when we start to recognize, okay, the civilization is focused on this, then we could start to see, okay, well, what things are going to manifest? So what happens when the civilization is more focused in the solar plexus? People are more creative. Maybe they're dancing. Maybe they're having fairs or festivals. This is why summer, the star people are saying, summer is the sun. And that sun is activating your solar plexus, which is why people go outside more and they have fairs and festivals and do arts and music and dances and all sorts of things. Now, the second that the collective consciousness shifts and it goes up, when it goes into the heart, you're going to start to see more people loving the earth. Our earth is green. That's how we see it from down here, from our perspective. If you went up to space, it would look more blue because there's a lot of water on the planet. Now, when we start to recognize this, it's like we have to also take into consideration that Mother Earth herself also has a lens that she is viewing. Her lens actually generates the chi energetic systems, which actually come up from the bottoms of your feet. It rebalances your energetic systems and it grounds you into her consciousness grids. Now, Mother Earth's consciousness changes the way that we think. It heals us. But depending on her location code frequency, it's going to either tell whether you're in a chaos location or you're in a peaceful, calm, and quiet location. So when we start to recognize Mother Earth also is pushing location codes. And actually, I got so excited today because on Facebook, I posted a photo of a mushroom ring. And so we're always talking about vortex energetics. And finally, I went on a nature walk today, and there was a little ring in a circle of mushrooms. And the star people were like, you have to take your shoes off and ground onto the earth in the middle of the mushroom ring, because you know that there's a vortex energetic there. And they were like, and then just hold it and then just allow any negative energies in your grids to just discharge. And sure enough, you'll feel it like it washes over you and you feel grounded and connected. Now, within moments of sticking your bare feet on the earth, you are discharging your ions. And so it makes you healthier, it reduces inflammation. There's so many different benefits. You guys all should be Googling earth grounding. They have earth grounding sheets. I have one on my bed. You guys can do it. They have different types of earth grounding materials to put inside the shoes. And so the shoes, it causes it is an unharmonic energetic exchange the second we put rubber on the soles of the feet. Now, the star people are saying humanity is supposed to walk barefoot because imagine for 1 second walking in the forest. Your feet naturally become adjusted to it. And so don't think that you're going to step on a stick and hurt your foot. That could happen too, but just imagine for 1 second you start walking differently, right? Because your body has to adjust to the pressure of the woods underneath your feet. But we know that if we take things like an onion and we stick it in the sock, it pulls out all the negative toxins. Our connection to Mother Earth is so strong that when we are walking on her and when she knows that we truly love her, all of a sudden she's naturally going to start to send signals up the earth that pulls the toxins out of our feet. But she also can send nutrition. So she knows if we're sick because there's a connection there. We're connected to her consciously. Now, the mushroom, the mycelium kingdoms, they have a network underneath the ground. And they are fully grounded and connected. And so when you see one mushroom, you don't see the connections because it's under the earth, but every single mushroom is basically connected. And then they go and they're neurons. We call it a neuron, just so you guys understand. But that connection fires and wires through all of these little, he's saying it's a root structure. We should call it a root structure. And so my Starman, it's so funny. And what he's saying is that when you interact with one mushroom, you're talking to them all, because they're all connected, especially the ones up on the trees, because they are connected through the roots of the trees. There's a lot of mushrooms who are tree mushrooms, and they give a connection to both the trees as well as Mother Earth. The trees generate vortex energetics, the star people are saying. It vortexes up and it pulls that energy directly into the upper atmosphere. Now, that vortex, that is, the tree summons the vortex, the star people are saying, and it allows the water to be pushed up the trunk of a tree. This is very important because we have always been told that the water sucks up the tree from the tree. That's not the case. Mother Earth knows, okay, there's a tree there. We need to generate a vortex. We need to fire it up. Now, when we start to do that, we start to realize it brings a whole new meaning to let's go hug a tree. Now, there's also telepathic communication that can be done amongst trees. And on the planet, we may have even noticed that there are some trees that look just as tall as mountains. We just don't realize that they are trees. Now, those trees were ancient. And so we take a look at the Aurora Borealis. There is a potential mountain of a tree trunk right there. And that tree was basically our tree of life that connects the human consciousness into the earth. And so when you go to locations like this, you'll notice that the energy is different. Think about the Aurora Borealis. There's magnetism and electrical in the atmosphere. So what do you guys think is going to happen when we start to do meditations there? When we start to coax that magnetic to our location? Now, we know for a solid fact as well, the Aurora Borealis changed locations like within the past year or two. And so New York saw one. It was over the skies. I personally didn't see it, but I've heard about it and other people have seen it. So that's telling us that the magnetism of the entire planet is changing or shifting. Now, when we start to realize that our biological forms are designed to work with magnetism, this is a solid part about being human. Your location coding is directly controlled by the magnetism in the location. We have hematite and magnetite crystals inside of the brain, just like the whales and dolphins and all sorts of sea life. And that magnetism in the brain, it's the crystals in the brain sense the magnetism. It gives you not only your sense of direction, but your sense of if trauma is coming. Now, the star people are saying right now, imagine your emotion code grid. And so that emotion code grid can either be very high frequency or very low frequency. Your emotions are magnetic in their nature. They are directly controlled by the higher self as well as the ego mind. They work hand in hand. When you start to raise your biological frequency, it allows the higher self more access into that heart chakra, and that is when the higher self really starts to command your emotions with you. It is a type of energetic bonding that takes place, so we just have to have patience for ourselves and keep holding love and light until that higher self flowers open the heart chakra. Now, that's very important to learn how to flower open the heart chakra, because the heart chakra extends. You can feel this. This is a very real thing. When you start to feel the heart chakra flower open, you'll feel a pressure being pulled out of your chest, and it's a good foot away from the body. And then it feels like it opens like this. That's very important, because when the flower opens, when the higher self flowers open your higher chakra, your heart chakra, the star people are saying, it allows your highest potential to be manifest in the now moment. Now, your highest potential is always what is going to bring you the most amount of joy, love, and bliss right now in this very moment. And so whatever it is that you guys are meant to be doing in the now moment, not 10 years from now, not your long-term goals, right now in this very second, what is it that's going to bring you the most amount of joy, love, and bliss? That's what you're meant to be doing in this second. When you start doing that and the excitement, it increases, the star people are saying, it allows you access into a higher frequential realm. This is how we start to access 5D frequencies. However, the star people are saying you must first learn to utilize time and space. So you have to go into 4D frequencies. Many of you guys are holding 4D frequencies right now. You're just unaware of it. Now in 4D, instantaneous manifestation of any item is available to manifest. So you guys can have all your needs can be met right now by opening up your heart chakras and staying in that zone of love. Now, it's okay to get triggered. It's okay to go back down, because you're going to rise up again and just try it again and do it again. The main goal here is to feel good, to be in love, to not have drama or chaos or any catastrophes in your life. We want to feel good. We want to heal our bodies. We want the earth to be clean. We want our civilization to be happy. We want to be able to raise children here and have the children happy and have the children have other activities to do. And we don't want to have to worry about money or people starving or people be homeless. We want to live in a world in which we are filled with love, and that love guides and supports us. And then all of a sudden we are changing our internal circumstances, which is our frequency bandwidth. It encodes us at the biological levels, and then it starts to radiate out. And then we actually can start to see a change in the holographic simulation. Now, what that looks like is you can manifest a building. You can manifest a mountain can move. All of this stuff is real. I tell you with 100% certainty and as a fact, as a mom, all of this is real. I've seen it. So when we start to recognize that we have to make the change, because the outer world is going to shift when our inner worlds change. This is known as our internal circumstances. So this is the most important thing that we are being called to do as star seeds, as light workers, to come here. We have to heal ourselves. We have to go inside. Whatever makes you really uncomfortable, that's where you should start. That you should pull apart your entire psyche, right? And so what traumas have you been through? What troubles? Let's dive in deep. Let's heal all that stuff. And then how do you feel about the outside world? What's some things that you don't like? You have to heal that too. There's a frequency inside of you that's generating the outside world. Now, the way your binary codex frequency radiates, as star people are saying, it comes down like a light tube, even though it is 3 different frequencies that are spiraling down, and time, space, and your cycle repeats come along with this spiral. This is how the system works, energetically speaking. So it comes down like this, and then all of a sudden it radiates out. And then when it comes, it's circular when it radiates out. And when it comes back in, it forms a sacred geometric snowflake. That sacred geometric snowflake is what makes up the physical matter as we know it. So if we go inside and we change our internal frequencies, then all of a sudden we can make changes to the simulation as we see fit. This is how we instantaneously manifest. Many times we're not going to be aware that this process is happening. We're just going to kick back. We're going to be super happy. We're just going to let time fly, because that's how we know we're in a higher frequency. And then all of a sudden it's like good luck magic, because everything you need just lands in your lap. And then you're happy because you're like, wow, I know I didn't have any money, but every single time I pull my visor down and I need money for anything, it's like a 20 spot falls out of nowhere. And this is real. I've seen it happen too. And so the more you open the heart, and you can't be afraid to give away, because anything in the physical reality, any physical matter, you have to be ready, willing, and able to let it go. Because the second you hold on to it, that's a frequency of need. So I'm going to hold on to this. I'm not going to let it go. The star people have replicators. That's part of 5D too. Now, do you think that they're going to hold on to any item in the physical? No, they're going to take it, they're going to use it, they're going to throw it back in the replicator, and no one's the wiser. Now, because they do this, it changes their energetic grids. And the energetic grid says, I don't need to hold on to stuff. I am free to have it, to love it, to use it, and to give it to somebody else who needs it. And so they had me downgrade. It was like 95% of all the stuff in my house. They had me bag it up and donated it to people in need. And that was great too. And they had me go and change my entire life. So everything I'm telling you guys to do, I've done. I've been where you are. I made the steps. I did, baby steps to raise your frequency, changing your diet. Start eating living foods, so salads and stuff. Even if you can't 100% make the shift now, that's okay too. Just start incorporating more into your diet. Now, speaking of living foods, we have to realize that water can be programmed. And so down at the subatomic levels, when we speak a word over the water and then we flash freeze it, it makes a sacred geometric snowflake. This is also what makes up the physical world. So this is called cymatics. Let me take a sip. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so cymatics is how sound and light ions, basically it's like the ether, sound and light generates the physical matter that we see. It's generating our body, it's generating every single thing in the world that we see, in our realities. Now, when we start to realize that sound can affect the physical matter, we could take sound and we can have that sound expressed at a piece of glass, and then all of a sudden the piece of glass shatters. We understand this. We can reflect sound at an individual and it can make them very, very sick. We know this. The police have that technology for riot control. Now, sound can heal cancer. That's something that we don't really talk about. It's a positive frequency. Now, when we start to realize that any type of, we'll call it an energetic imbalance in the physical form, the star people are making that a correct word so that we don't get censored. Any imbalance in the physical body has a sound frequency wave that can potentially heal the physical body. Now, the sound wave has to be an 11th harmonic. And so what does that mean? Now we have an octave range, there's 12. And then the next octave range is another 12. This is also how your chakra systems work. And so let's take, for an example, you have musical note C, he's saying. And so the musical note C, now you need to go all the way up and you need to get the next octave, musical note C. That's 2. That's an 11th harmonic. Harmonic means they are blended together as one. Now, when we strike a piano across a room and we have the tuning fork for the same exact frequency, so let's say it's a tone of C. We hit the piano note C and the tuning fork across the room is a note C. That tuning fork starts to vibrate because they know it's the same exact note. And so sound, it can actually have an impact on items way across the room. This is another reason why we should only speak positivity, because you have different frequencies in your voice and your tone. The tonality is your emotional expression during the moment that you are casting the words. So we really take it very seriously, any words that we are utilizing, especially reoccurring words. This is how the attachments work as well, because the attachments try and push negative words in through our mouth. It's a form of psionic ability. It's a form of telepathy. So the second that we realize that this is happening, it really makes us pay attention to our emotions and thoughts. No one is perfect. That's fine too. We are allowed to be right here, and we are allowed to give ourselves compassion for the healing that we are doing. That's fine too. And it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to catch yourself, right? So catching yourself being negative. Okay, wait a second. I just called myself. You could put a coin in the jar if you're cursing. That's what my kids want me to do. Or you could drop into the heart and you could send it love and life, and you can thank the universe for the experience. Thank you for the experience. Thank you for allowing me to feel the negativity so that I can transmutate it and I can raise my frequency. That's an indication of an energetic imbalance that I have in my body. And so the second I know, it's like all day today I was saying, oh, I have no time. There's no time. And my son was like, that's an attachment. And I was like, yep. So we went right in, did an attachment release. Sometimes these things happen. Now, a lot of times too with the attachments, if you go into like a supermarket or somewhere, they jump from person to person. So it makes it very important to be aware of what thoughts you have reoccurring in your mind, as well as the emotions. Okay. Okay, we have chaos energy encoded people. Now, this one is really amazing because some people, just imagine for 1 second, you notice that there's always chaos around you. Now, some people are born with this ability at birth, and they literally act like a full moon. So they are come into the simulation specifically to pulse people and remove their densities from their energetic grid structures. This then allows the energetic grids to start encoding with more love and light inside of them, thus raising the frequency of the person who is being pulsed. Now, the chaos encoded person, once again, they see it as a curse because they're like, oh, there's always chaos around me, even though if they're not involved in the chaos is always around them. They just don't realize that this is a potential ability, because the second that they know that they have this ability, they can cast it at people. It's an advanced healer's gift is what it really is. Because just imagine for 1 second, your densities and distortions are generated by by traumas and by energetic blockages in the grids. And so if this person can come along and they can pulse your energy grids and they can remove any darkness in the grid, and they do it like this just by looking at you, then all of a sudden that's someone you want to hang out with, because you get your shadow work done very rapidly. And then the second you're holding on to all of that love and light, there's no more density or distortions in your grid. Now, your distortion includes your age as well, because your source frequency, he's calling it an experiential frequency, which is your time-space frequency wave. It is perfect in its nature at the time of birth. And then it goes through different stages. But the second that we become consciously aware that we are divine creators, we can go in and we can change or modify that frequency, thus anti-aging the physical form. They know this because this process in the physical is actually controlled by the telomeres. The telomeres are the little X's on the end of the DNA end caps. And when we start to dive in deep, we can consciously pull them apart. We can consciously extend them. The star people are correcting. He's saying, don't pull it apart. He's saying, just extend the little X caps. So just consciously visualize them in the DNA and just thank them ever so gently for their extension. Now, what that starts to do over time, remember, our manifestations still have to work within the laws of time and space. This is the safety is on during the simulation. This is a blessing. This means that we're not going to manifest a Godzilla, right? Because we have to focus on it a bunch of times to allow it to manifest. We have to believe. We have to be in the moment, and we have to change the internal frequencies to allow it to manifest. So that's all done by believing you can have it and consciously focusing on it and knowing it's going to come to you regardless of how long it takes. Now, when we do that, we can do it for anti-aging. There may be manifest. You have to watch the physical too, the star people are saying, because while you can go into the physical form consciously and extend the DNA end caps, you'll also start to notice mirror reflections. Those mirror reflections are going to be things that show you, oh, this is what you're trying to manifest. And so then all of a sudden you'll start to see it's like a synchronicity comes up. And so let's say, for an example, you're trying to win the lottery, and then you start noticing the lottery numbers, the winning jackpot goes really high. That's because your focusness is on that. So you may start seeing commercials everywhere for people winning the lottery. You may start noticing your friends won the lottery. This is how it happens. This is a reflection of the thing that you are focused on. So when you start to focus on anti-aging your body, you may start to notice different supplements coming into your awareness. Oh, take this, right? Take NMN. That's going to anti-age you. Take resveratrol. That's going to anti-age you. You'll start noticing different things popping in your feeds. You'll start noticing different things in real life. Now, your reflections do not always have to be the cell phone. It does not always have to be the TV or news or commercials, because, and that would be, it's very easy to say, well, the cell phone's listening to me. That's how they knew what to give me a commercial for. That's true too. But what I'm telling you is you're going to start to see the reflections in the real world. You may notice, you may go into the same store that you've been in every day, and then all of a sudden they have the bottle of anti-aging this or that. And so that's a reflection. It's never been there before, and now it's in your physical world. Now you can see it. So that's how reflections work. Now, reflections are very important because it's giving you a notification of what's about to manifest. So the more reflections you guys can see, just know in your heart and take it as a divine alignment and a divine synchronicity that you are about to manifest whatever your focus is going on to. Don't give up. Now, many times you may even get called to do things like change your diet. And so sometimes when you're focused on that, you'll turn to superfoods. And then all of a sudden, the superfoods will give you a burst of energy. Who doesn't want to feel good? Right? Like if you're taking superfoods and then you feel a ton of energy, keep doing what you're doing and give you more energy. Now, there's different types of energetic exchanges that we can do with each other. The star people are saying that are very high value. So heart to heart hugs is a very simple one that each person can do, and that actually fills you with light ions. Now, as the sunflowers do this as well, because he's saying that when the sunflowers, when it's a normal sunny day, the sunflowers aim at the sun. Now, let's say the sunflowers, it's a cloudy overhang day. The sunflowers are going to turn and face each other. And scientifically speaking, we can see them sending light ions back and forth to each other. And so what they're doing is they are sharing their energy to make sure that every one of them heals. Not a single one gets left behind. Now, this scientifically has been shown to be the case for all animals. So if we put chickens together, baby chickens, if one of them falls sick and you leave them all together, the other ones are going to send the light ions and it's going to make the sick chicken healthier. They have done scientific experiments where they've taken the sick chicken and they have moved the chicken aside, put it in a glass container. It did not receive the light ions because light ions do not necessarily pass through glass. And so this is a way with, especially with the UV blockage in the windows and the windows in the cars and such, we're not really receiving those solar energetics because of that glass is blocking us. So it is something to be aware of. Now, he's bringing my attention to Organite. Somebody here works with Organite. It's not you, Jill. I know you probably just jumped for joy. It's my friend. She's on Instagram. Organite. One of you guys are working and doing work with Organite. My starman is saying. He's saying, keep going. You're right on the right track. And if you continue to do it, you can use different types of copper, he's saying. And whatever it is that you're doing, it has some sort of spiral in a pyramid shape. It's not like a regular piece of Organite. He's saying it's something extravagant. So he's saying keep going because you're going to stumble into something. And something is going to have electricity pertaining to whatever piece of Organite you guys are actually making. So that I love when he gives people messages like that. So if that's you, just send me a message. This way I know what it is. I want to know. Okay. Organite is layered material with inorganic and then organic material. And then all of a sudden you want to notice that they have to put a spiral copper inside of the unit. Now, a lot of times they use like a resin, which is like a hard plastic. They layer it all, they drop different crystals in, and then they put the copper spiral there. Now, what it does is it works with the light ions. And so it's going to discharge your positive ions, which are, it's like, they're not really healthy. It's everything in balance. And so it discharges the positive ones and it brings in more negative ions. And so the negative ones tend to heal us better. Now, our body's like an antenna. And so we know we have electrical in this. We know that we're frequency because anybody from the 80s, we used to hold on to the antenna of the TV to try and get the frequency and the TV to clean itself up. So we know for a fact that our body, it holds frequencies to it. Now, when we start to realize that light ions is ether, that's what that is. Reiki energy is like ether, is what it is. We are casting a love-based emotional energy when we are engaging in Reiki healing sessions. Now, Reiki is wonderful because it's one explanation of how we work. We're doing this all the time. So the second that you have a negative or toxic thought in your mind about a person, you're actually sending negative energies to that person. Now, if we do this enough to a person, the person's energy field is going to shrink, and then all of a sudden they fall into sadness and despair. This happens. So we can make people collapse and crumble. We can make them sick. That's very unfortunate, but this is how our energetic fields work. And we're speaking scientifically. This way we know if we are capable of doing it with a negative perception, you're capable of doing it with a loving perspective. Now, when we go and we start casting love, that's more important because if we can cast the love at a plant and the plant grows 10 times its original size, now what happens when all the star seeds come together and we start casting all of our love at Mother Earth? We start grounding our feet to the earth and we start saying thank you, right? Then all of a sudden the earth starts to grow cleaner. And so she may clean up the oceans. Now, the Organite is wonderful. You can make these things in like ugly hockey pucks from like the cupcake tins. And then what you do is you take them and you throw them next to the cell phone towers because the cell phone towers are radiating the 5G. And, you know, there's radiation signs next to the cell phone tower. So we already know what that is. So if we take a piece of orgonite, we can actually cross eliminate that radiation frequency that's coming off of it. Now, many times you should also try and bury a piece there because it's going to have an impact on the actual energetics of Mother Earth. And so when we start to do earth grounding pipes into the ground, it starts to change the frequency. Anybody who knows somebody whose house is really toxic, you should get 4 earthing pipes. That's an orgonite pipe. We can make them ourselves. We do not have to pay hundreds of dollars to a company to make these things. You go to Home Depot, you get yourself a copper pipe, you get the copper ends to the pipe, you put it in, you super glue it shut, and then you layer your material, right? So organic, what's organic? Organic's like wool. That's organic. It came from an animal. It's organic. And then fiberglass, inorganic. It's something man-made. And then you layer them. You drop a piece of quartz crystal in there. You could drop as many crystals as you want. So you could bring a whole bunch. You can bring crystal tiny pieces. You could put those in too. And then what you do is you layer it, and then you fill it with a little bit of resin so that the resin hardens inside of the pipe. You put the second cap on, and boom, you're done. You just dig a hole and put it in the ground. And now when you do the 4 corners of your own property, and that's cheap. You guys can go to like the boat manufacturing place and you can get fiberglass on the floor for free, right? So most of these, all healing modalities are usually very cheap. It doesn't cost a lot to heal stuff. And me personally, I believe that that's by God's design, because it's like, oh, you're sick, you have this and this. Well, take a look at the dandelion, because that's the #1 heart cure, right? We make the dandelion tea, you eat the flowers, eat the root, and then all of a sudden your heart attack, all that stuff is gone. Your heart heals itself. It's amazing. And then the second that we start going back to nature and we start really diving into what plants heal the energetic grids, this is off the charts, I believe, because it's like when you start to work with people's emotion grids, you start to pull apart each chakra, you can tell the energetic grid structures. Now, when you start to see the imbalances and where they are, you could start to say, oh, okay, well, if you take this plant is going to reflect into the grid this way, and it's going to heal X, Y, and Z. So the pharmaceutical companies know this, because when we start to take a look at you taking a medicine, and that medicine all of a sudden, it triggers side effects. And so all the side effects listed to that one thing, it's because it's pushing on your energetic grid and it's generating an imbalance in that area of the grid, which allows all the particular side effects to manifest. Each chakra is directly connected into different organ systems. So for example, we take the orange chakra. It's the kidneys, the urinary tract, the reproductive areas, all these different things. It's all connected. Now, the second, and they have charts, the Chinese acupuncture charts, the meridian lines, all of these different charts is an indication. So every culture got a tiny fragment of this knowledge from extraterrestrials ages ago. And what we're doing now is we're stepping into a day and an age where we're putting all the pieces together and we're realizing, oh, well, this is it's already here. All the knowledge we need is already here. There's ancient texts that may even explain this knowledge. And then we have the star people, and they're like, we're going to give the knowledge to hundreds of thousands of channels. And the stay-at-home moms, that's who I am. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids. And so when we start to do that, it's like, okay, push the knowledge far and wide so that everybody can wake up and everybody can have access to the knowledge. And this way it helps them to ascend and evolve. That's what the end game is. It's all about activation of your extrasensory abilities, falling back in love with your life again, falling back in love with your body, healing yourself, and living an amazing life. And that amazing life should really reflect into every single person's heart that you touch. And so you can't do that if you're sick and you're sad. You have to come back in. You have to love yourself. And you have to start doing boundaries and making moves to really heal your body. So we do have 2 minutes left. I'll just tell you, I do also offer private sessions. You guys can go to daniellelipton.com, do a private session with me. The star people usually come forward and they usually tell, what your extrasensory attunements are. So which abilities you have the greatest potential to activate first. Your star families always come forward. I do also offer attachment sessions. And so the attachment sessions, we dive into the emotion grids. We start pulling all of the attachments off. It's a very clean, energetic feeling when you are done. Now, a lot of times, if you've never had one of those done, it's like it changes things. You could change all your patterns of behavior. It's weird how it works. So different patterns, like even the way you dress, the food you eat, your natural intuitions, what you want to engage with. Some people have completely cleaned out their entire house and gotten rid of all the chemicals. So I see huge changes in people when we just do attachments. Now, what we do, I go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. That's Eastern time. And so at 8:30 p.m., I host a private Zoom for everyone. It is complimentary. We do this because we're building a community and together we rise. And so there's no charge. If you guys want the free Zoom link, come to daniellelipton.com, send me a message. I will just send you the Zoom link. It is no questions asked. And so come and join us. We do it twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we go in and we start releasing all of our density. No one has to be on video. And the star people actually do full energetic clearings on people during that. So yeah, it's wonderful. Anyone who has questions. Now I can't, TikTok, you guys don't really know, but I can't really see the words because you're very far from me. But just send your messages or your questions to daniellelipton.com. There's a little send a message icon. And then I write them all down. And it's just a lot of information. It comes really fast. So wonderful. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's 4949 synchronicity. So you guys have a wonderful evening and many love and blessings. Okay. Good night.